And they're like, what'd you spend your allowance on? No, Mr. Jerry had a sword I could buy. My dad's probably like, oh, all right, well, whatever. Do you imagine, like, coming home, you're like 10 or 11 with a sword from your scoutmaster?
Right, but here's the thing. I mean, God bless our parents. Like, they didn't understand it. They didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, my parents could have been like, no, I'm shutting it down.
Right?
You're going to go over to Mr. Jerry's house and play Dungeons and Dragons on a weekend?
Yep.
Scouts isn't the weekend.
Right? Yep. I could have gotten shut down, too.
But they were like, no, we trust you.
Mm-hmm.
We trust you. Coming home with a sword, Welcome back to Digitally Distracted. Yes, this is the fated Dungeons & Dragons episode. We kept referencing Dungeons & Dragons, so we figured let's just get it all out. Let's spit it all out now on the show as a main topic so we can stop annoying you with our D&D chats. Let's just get it all out on the
I'm
book.
excited.
D&D, we both love it. We both love tabletop games and tabletop role-playing games, though you have more experience with non-D&D games. We'll get into that later.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to start off. We've briefly mentioned this before. But first experiences with Dungeons and Dragons. How did you first hear about Dungeons and Dragons? Where did it all start for you? I know you said it was high school.
Yeah. You know, that's a good question. I don't know where I...
Did you hear about it before it was introduced to you?
You know, I think I might have stumbled upon it in the bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
And with the cover art.
Probably stood out. Medieval fantasy.
Like, man, this is so cool. What is this? You know?
Were you into like the young adult fantasy novels back then? Like the Terry Goodkind?
No, I was really actually into the artwork.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. Artwork back then, that was a thing that drew you in. When it came to books, for me, I would read a book based on the cover.
Yep.
That's why I read a book. Just like I would buy an NES game based on the cover. Because there were no previews. I wasn't going online and looking at a trailer.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think now that I think about it, my intro into D&D was the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
I loved those, especially these are newer ones. But the Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventure.
Really?
As much as I don't like horror, Goosebumps is like the lowest bar for horror anyway. It's not very scary. I mean, the books are probably scarier than the Fox Kids TV show. Oh, so cringy, but so great. So fun to watch that old Goosebumps show. But I remember sitting on the bus. Because, again, I mentioned this before. I wouldn't take my Game Boy on the bus. It was like, that was a faux pas. That was a scary thing to do. Because I didn't want to lose my Game Boy.
Right.
So I would take my Choose Your Own Adventure novels that I would borrow from the library or that I bought. Most of them I borrowed from the library. I was a library hound back in the day. And I would just sit there and I was just like, I'm going in that tunnel.
Right.
Page 40. You died. Oh. Got me again. And then I would go back and cheat. I'm like, I'm not starting over.
Right. You always keep your fingers in the pages.
Yep, I'm going back. You know what? No, I'm actually going to go up the ladder.
That was like a save point. You know, you stick your finger in there.
The original save point was bookmarking your Choose Your Own Adventure novel.
Exactly.
We're going way back. So you saw it in like a regular bookstore?
Right. Yeah. So I did the Choose Your Own Adventure books. That's where I started. And then the Joe Denver Lone Wolf series, where there was actually some combat involved. Really enjoyed those books in that series. And then I kind of outgrew that. And I was looking for the next sort of, what's next? What's after this? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I watched some kids rolling some dice on the bus. And it was sort of their own homebrew D&D.
Wait, on the bus?
On the bus.
On the bus,
they
were rolling dice.
Yeah.
Were they rolling were they six-sided or were these?
They were six-sided. No, they were six-sided.
Just normal
dice.
It
was their own kind of homebrew system. And I remember like watching them and trying to like wrap my mind around what they were doing. And
yeah, because it's not like you knew about craps.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I knew that there was something out there, but I didn't know what it was. And it's sort of like when you try to describe what D&D is to like your parents, they can't wrap their mind around it.
No, they can't.
So I was pursuing this, having a hard time wrapping my mind around it, but knowing that there was something out there. So yeah, that was my introduction. How
So
about
you're
you?
like, what is this game with dice
Yeah.
that isn't Yahtzee?
Right.
And that's what it was for you. So I don't know if I told the full story, but I briefly touched on it, that it was my scoutmaster
Yes!
that got me into Dungeons and Dragons. And it all started with, he knew I was into role-playing games, knew I loved role-playing games, but I've always been a Japanese role-playing game fan. You know, my RPGs got to have some J in them.
Right.
Why are they so J? Those RPGs. Never was a big Western RPG guy. My Scoutmaster got me into Western RPGs. Before that, though, Final Fantasy, I would talk to him about that because he had an old Nintendo. Because at that point, they were getting old. Super Nintendo was a big deal. Genesis was a big deal. Not a lot of people were talking about Nintendo anymore, except me and my Scoutmaster, I guess. And he let me borrow the original Dragon Warrior. So he didn't play Final Fantasy, but he knew Dragon Warrior for NES. Dragon Quest, as it is now known everywhere. They changed the name finally to the Japanese title. But I actually struggled with liking the original Dragon Warrior because it felt very slow to me, slower than the original Final Fantasy. You don't see your characters on screen, and you're just seeing the enemies. But I liked the idea of it. That was the most J his RPGs got. He was more into the Western RPGs, specifically on the PC. So things like Eye of the Beholder,
Right.
a lot of the advanced D&D based games, and I cannot recall, there was this one that he let me borrow, and it was so good, and I still to this day can't remember what it was called, and it frustrates me so much. I remember my party getting to the final adventure. We were at the final area. It was this weird like blue glass sort of map dungeon, and I was a wizard character, of course. You saw your characters. It was definitely more of an Ultima style game. The Ultima games feel very Western. They don't have that JRPG feeling because it's like almost real-time combat. And then Eye of the Beholder. Do you know Eye of the Beholder? That's the one where it's first-person view, and it's like a dungeon crawler.
Yes.
Yeah, and you'll come across monsters, and you'll click on them to attack them. You have your party. He got me into Ultima a little bit, but I wish, if I could remember those games, this might be a task for the Discord server. Or you're going to have to help me figure out what this game was. And I loved it so much. And then he got me into Baldur's Gate, which we talked about briefly. And I was just like, man, that's so cool. He's like, well, you know where all this stuff was inspired? Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, well, I feel like I'd heard the term Dungeons and Dragons. I don't think I ever saw the show. Did you ever watch the Dungeons and Dragons show?
The cartoon?
The cartoon.
Yes. Yeah.
What'd you think of the cartoon?
It didn't really have much in common with the actual game.
No, because it was kids that were in Dungeons and Dragons, but they were like kids from the modern world that went in and like, I'll be the elf archer.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I thought it was so stupid.
Yeah.
I thought it was so stupid.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that on camera because I'm sure there's some fans of that. I just didn't. It's the same thing that bothers me with like Kingdom Hearts, where it's a kid pulled into like this Final Fantasy world with Disney and everything, or one that's a real offender in this style of storytelling. The original Final Fantasy Tactics for PlayStation 1. Love that game. Amazing game. It takes place in its own world. And then Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, the sequel, is about kids that get pulled into the world of Final Fantasy Tactics. Why did you have to just tell another story in that world?
Right.
Very frustrating. And I always struggle with the name of it. I used to say Ivalice, but I think it's Evilise. Or Evilise. I think it's Evilise is the name of the world. It's also the same world that I believe Final Fantasy 12 takes place in, which is kind of a nice callback. Tactics Advance. That made me mad. But that's why I never really got into the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. It was also a little before my time.
Yeah.
Because that was like earlier 80s. So I would not have gotten up in the morning to watch it.
Yeah.
But instead of just doing it in the world and doing like a Forgotten Realms story or whatever, I guess that'd be a little too intense. So they had to make it a little more kid-friendly.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And that's probably how they could probably relate the audience to the characters as though they're...
Especially with the stigma
of
D&D. Also, who was like, you know what would be a good cartoon show for the kids?
Right.
something based on Dungeons and
But
Dragons.
wouldn't that actually feed into the stereotypes where you're saying like, oh,
You're actually pulled into this world.
and you're casting spells and you believe this stuff is real.
Oh, that's true. So
You
that
know?
might have made it even worse. in a
Yeah,
way.
that's what I'm thinking.
I never thought about that. Yeah, because the parents. Oh, if it's anything like what this game or this show is trying to trick you into thinking is real, turn that off. I didn't think about that. But yeah, so Baldur's Gate is talking about what the inspiration was, and he's like, well, there's Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition. 3rd edition was new. He had not played it. He played 2nd or advanced edition. That was kind of what he knew. That's what Baldur's Gate was based on. THAC0. It's all about hitting that THAC0.
Yep.
Negative armor class.
Yep.
My armor class is so negative. You can't even hit me.
I still revert back to that, where the lower the better.
The hardest thing to understand and calculate in advanced, and yet you train your brain to be like, oh, no, yep. And they're like, oh, armor class 20, good luck, wizard.
Yeah.
But it's like nowadays, no, that's
you want that
what you
-4, -5. That's what you want.
Absolutely. So I really got into Baldur's Gate. And he's like, you know what? Why don't let's go old school and let's get into Dungeons and Dragons. And he let me borrow the player's handbook. And the first main player's handbook for 3rd edition came with a character creator disc, which was awesome. So that's how we would do it. We all borrowed the disc.
So it was like a tutorial?
No. You would install the disc, and you would go through menus, and you would create your character sheet, drag and drop, like, oh, I have these items. You type in everything, and then you would print it out, and you would bring it with you. We all installed the disc.
That actually is great.
It was so convenient. It was so great. Perfect. That was like super way ahead when it comes to like D&D stuff. It's crazy to think how I started with one that was already so advanced, but wasn't advanced D&D. And that's what we would do. We'd all install it. We would print out our character sheets. We would bring them for the next one if we leveled up or anything, and type in new items, because it had a database of like the common stuff. And then you would have to manually type in anything weird, or if it would calculate all of your stats, what your rolls would be for spells, things like that within the program. And it was usually accurate. And if you had to make any changes, you just did them on your sheet after you printed it out. So that was pretty cool. And our printer wasn't even that good. So it was sometimes he would have to print my sheet for me because we didn't have ink, or I don't even know if we had a printer at first, but I knew I would make the character.
Right.
Maybe put it on like a floppy disk, I think. You could like save the character file.
Yeah, take it to Kinko's, have them print it out for you.
Can you Kinko that out for me? Man, that's Kinko's. Windswept. That's our Windswept is our Kinko's. That's our local mom and pop Kinko's. So that was my first experience, and we can talk more about like how that went. But he put together a group. It was his son, who was also in Scouts, Boy Scouts with us, myself, our Eagle Scout youth leader, and then our Scout master.
Okay.
So it was a group of us 4. And then there was 1 or 2 kids that would come in and out of that group. They weren't regulars, but they kind of, I mean, they would do some sessions. And there were some awesome things that we did in that. And don't let me forget to circle back to that campaign.
Okay.
You seen these kids with dice. Yeah, do you remember who it was? I know you said you and your best friend played.
Right. So
the most.
The first couple steps were I hadn't gotten plugged in to anybody else with the same kind of interest as me. I had kind of these more close friends, but I would try to get them excited about giving it a shot. And I think what happened was I bought either the starter box. I think I bought the starter box.
Yeah, that was a good starting point for a lot of people. They would always have these like little starting adventurers kits.
Yeah, like modules.
It would have a small module. It would come with like some pre-made characters so you could see what they look like. Because it is, if you're not, I don't want to say this, but I'm gonna say it. If you're not like mathematically minded, the role play is obviously the easy part if you're into the creativity and the writing.
Right.
But when it comes to like mathematically calculating everything, that can be overwhelming for a young person that's not like thinking about that.
Yeah. So I remember I GM'd without any kind of experience. I got the rules. I butchered the rules. I remember my one friend.
He called you out?
It's sort of where
that's the worst. When you get called out as the master.
Wasn't doing. I was doing my best, but I wasn't doing a great job. And he's like, let's just fight a dragon. And I was like,
Oh, just telling you what to
I was
do.
like, you don't want to do that.
No.
He's like, no, I do. And
That's,
I was
that's like max level
it's
stuff.
like, okay, well, let's.
Let me just load a dragon up
Right.
from my book.
And I didn't realize that hit dice was different than hit points. So he had he had like 8 hit dice, and my friend ended up killing him in like one shot. And I was like, he did like 9 points of damage. I was like, he's dead. And my friend was like, this is stupid.
This game is terrible.
Right. And in my mind, I was like, it's not stupid. Like I knew it wasn't.
Yeah.
I had done something wrong.
You got to the point where you were comfortable enough to let out what you were hiding.
Right.
Which is that you liked this thing and those people, and then you blew it. You totally blew it.
Yeah.
I remember there's so many, because I've done both. I've been a player through campaigns. It's interesting to me that you say GM.
Mm-hmm.
You instinctively, I've never heard you reference it as DM. And I've always, just DM. Even if I'm talking about another game like Fate or GURPS or whatever, I always think Dungeon Master. I never think Game Master. That's what GM is.
Yeah, yep.
That's funny that why did you always think of it as GM?
No.
Did you never hear the term DM?
I started DM.
So you have just sort of generalized it.
Yeah, because I went to the other systems who referenced this as GM. So that's kind of what I ended up defaulting to over time. But no, it started as DM.
And you could do a whole show on being a DM because there's so many moments. I never got caught. I will say that. I was very lucky enough. I was very good at acting my way through or, faking my way through my mistakes as a DM. Every DM, every GM makes mistakes in every session.
Yep.
Every session, they screw something up. Unless you're perfect.
No.
Nobody's perfect.
It happened to me just the other day.
Well, there you go. See, you screw something up, and then it's your job, the DM or GM's job, is to get through that screw up so that it looks so seamless that the player characters are like, wow, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool how that thing, it looked like he had died from the way that stone tablet crushed him. But it was an illusion. That was cool. It was a ghost door. Oh, no, that was a ghost door. Yeah, it actually just fell through you. It's like, I just killed the party. So that's that thing. Like, and it's the DM and the GM is not there. That's where my original group of D&D people, not with the Scoutmaster, we'll talk about that, but when I first became, because he was our DM, he was one of those silent protagonist players, which is how some people like to play. They'll DM, and then they have a character that just is kind of along for the ride.
Yeah.
But they want to do both.
Yep. I've done that too.
I've done that before. But in the first campaign that I DM'd, there were so many mistakes that I would make. And my group was so into this strict rule following, just like rules. Well, that wouldn't happen that way. That's not possible to happen that way. And that's when I realized to have fun, you have to realize that the DM, the person running the game, for those of you that don't know what a DM is, the person who runs and makes the game happen, makes the world, runs the actions, controls all the non-player characters. Their job is not to follow the rules and is not there to run the law. They're not there to be the Judge Dredd of DM. They are there to make the game experience fun and make whatever situation entertaining for the player characters, not to be some strict rule follower.
Right.
Because then if you're so legalistic in the way that you DM a game, then it isn't fun at all. And you can't role play.
Right.
If you're being super legalistic, it's super hard to role play. And if the party members are being super rule crazy, min-maxing, only focused on their little abilities and exact number crunches, that's fine sometimes. But when that's all they're worried about, no role-playing happens.
No, right.
And that's the other thing about Dungeons and Dragons. There's so many ways to play Dungeons and Dragons, but I think the focus one should always be the role play.
Right.
And then
the story,
the role play, the campaign, what the characters are trying to do overall, the overarching thing. And then the modules and the maps and the fights supplement that to drive the story. When a lot of times, I think especially with 4th edition, this happened.
Yes.
That combat and miniatures ran the game and the story was a background.
Yep. Now, I mean, there's some people that really enjoy that, I think.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But you all have to be on the same page
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I think those players are missing out on what Dungeons and Dragons really can be.
Mm-hmm.
Games like Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
When you finally did get a group that played, how long did that last with the guy who wanted you to dragon him up?
It was that session. That was it.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So did anyone make it to your next group, your next adventuring party from that crew?
Oh, no.
So you started over.
No. I started over 3 times before I found a good group to play with.
And that good group that you found, were they people that you were super familiar with? Were they buddies, or was this a group that you kind of got to know through D&D?
No. It was one of my best buddies.
Right. You mentioned that you played a lot with him.
Yeah. So we actually started, I think it must have been some version of first edition, because it was just called D&D.
Mm-hmm. Very simplistic. Well, not simplistic, but simplistic in the sense of what you had on the table.
Right. So, for example, a dwarf was always like a dwarven fighter.
Yes. That was before there was more separation, because the early D&D days,
Yep.
it was almost like your race determined your class.
Yes.
And there wasn't this thing of class and race.
Right.
It was just defined. And they held on to that for a while in a way where the later editions, you would pick a class and a race, but there's classes that you would never put with that race.
No.
Like, oh, no, you're not going to be a barbarian wizard. That's stupid. You just don't do it. And I don't think it was until the much later games that became something that was acceptable, because having a flawed character is way more fun than having somebody who's perfect.
Right.
That just fits the stereotype.
Right.
So you were playing that version. See, I never got to experience that. And I know to do that now, that version probably feels so obsolete.
Yeah, it does. It feels very constrictive.
So what was that original party? Or was it just you and your friend?
Yeah, it was me and my friend.
And you didn't play a character?
I think I did. So I got to participate in the combat.
And what did you pick at that time when you couldn't actually pick classes? I mean, you could, but you were mostly picking the race.
Yeah, I think I was just like a human fighter, I think. It was
Mr.
pretty,
Generic.
yeah,
Generic
it was pretty,
Gerald.
Well, yeah, it was pretty boring.
Yeah.
But I was juggling the story too. So,
Yeah, because you were also running the
so I don't think I
game.
was super worried about it, honestly.
Yeah, that makes sense. When did you transition away from, and how did you transition away from the sort of base Dungeons and Dragons?
I remember I had a friend in school who played AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And and he would...
ADD is something very different.
Right, yeah. He would tell me, like, every day, he's like, there's no way that D&D is better than AD&D. AD&D is so much better. And I would fight with him on this. I would argue I had really very little exposure to AD&D.
But it's totally better.
Oh, my gosh.
Thaco aside. So good.
Oh, my
compared
gosh.
To the original.
Absolutely.
Night
I didn't
and
know
day,
that at the time.
Night and day.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Huge difference.
Yeah, that's why so many games were based on it.
Right. So it took me a little bit. It took me a little while because I was still in that D&D. But D&D was helpful in that it kept things simple initially for me to wrap my mind around, and then finally, once I got some base competency.
So yeah, because that's the thing. It's all about practice.
Yeah.
I could not run a session without a whole day prepping when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got good at it, I could fly by the seat of my pants pretty well, as long as I had sort of a module just in front of me. Like if I have a module, cake. I don't have to prep.
Right.
I mean, it helps. You should.
Right.
You absolutely should, because you should know. You don't know what your players are going to do. You can only force their hand so much before they get irritated. Because they may be like, well, I want to why don't we just travel? We'll just do the 3-day travel. We'll get some horses, and I want to travel to this town. And you're like, oh, shit, I haven't prepped for that town. I don't even know what's in that town.
Right.
That's tricky. That's tricky. So you gotta, the more you prep, the better.
Well, there's a sweet spot too, because like you said, I would hate preparing for hours and then my players do something completely different.
There is that. You know what?
And
You're
then,
right. You're right.
You
You're
know,
right.
all that preparation is shot, and I would hate that. So I would try to get like this outline. I actually got really good at improvising, really good. Now I feel like I need a little bit more preparation for a story arc. You know, when I was flying more by the seat of my pants, it was sort of this never-ending adventure. You know, it just snowballed. And now I'm much more interested in having, you know, the build, climax, the resolution. The you know, intro, build, climax, resolution.
Get the characters to the point that they should be in their life.
Right.
Basically, tell their story.
Right.
Tell that character's story.
Yeah. But it's still, you know, and I was just working on this yesterday. I prepare to a certain extent, and then I kind of have to pull myself back and say, you got to stop, because, you know, hopefully the characters are going to go down this route, this route.
This route, they're going down this
route,
right down that route, dog.
Or this route,
route. I'd say route.
All right, but there's no guarantee, you know. Yeah. So,
especially now, what he's talking about, I'm assuming, is the campaign we're going to be beginning.
Yes.
So that is Fate. Fate. Gerald has gotten me into the idea of playing this game, Fate. This is going to be the first non-Dungeons & Dragons tabletop role-playing game I have seriously participated in. This is going to be very new for me. I'm very comfortable in the D&D rule set, the D&D, just the way of play, the world of Dungeons & Dragons. Fate is very much more adaptable to a lot of different things. So I can see where the prep would be so important, because it's not like you're going to go online with Fate and just pick up a module and have us run a module.
Right. They're out there, but, you know, I've always kind of been the GM to kind of tell my own stories. So that's what I've been working on. Some of the ones out there, though, the modules, man, they're super creative.
Yeah.
They really are. We're starting with a fantasy genre, if you will.
Right. So I can ease into it. I can understand, you know, wizards and clerics.
It's familiar.
Yeah.
You know, so that way you can kind of focus on the rules and see how the rules work, and not worry so much about the skin of the game. Now, I will say this: we've got a couple players in our party.
Yep.
One has quite a bit of experience with the Fate system. He and I have been using it for quite some time. Another one has got decades of experience in D&D.
He's 69. He's a 69-year-old man.
He's got decades. He's been around since first edition. He might have been in college when that. Yeah, I think he might have been in college when first edition, or maybe high school when that came out. But the bulk of his experience has been D&D, or you know,
which is the same for me. Dungeons and Dragons from third edition on.
So he's really struggling wrapping his mind around
the openness of Fate.
And it's less about the number crunching and the stats and the math, and it's more about the kind of literary descriptors.
Yeah, the dice don't even have numbers on them.
Right.
That's, I was like, wait, what? Your pluses and minuses. Plus what? Minus what? Our first session is going to be this week.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because I'm not running it. Because I can just learn. But the good thing is I'm not the only one that's learning.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting. And I like that with Fate, the main focus for all the prep sessions has been creating your character and telling your story. And that's going to be the fun part of it. And then let the sort of combat and the sort of rules that go with the game to make it progress come because of the building of your character.
Exactly.
And their story.
The numbers and the abilities and the skills are a mechanism to tell more of the story, which is not the way it is with D&D.
No, and that's why I'm excited about it, because I do like the theatrics and things like that, so it'll be fun to do that. Gerald has this thing where he's like, all right, I want you guys to have voices. That was the first thing he said. I want somebody who's gonna put on a voice. You need to sound like your character.
Yeah.
And one of our characters is male, but his character
is female.
Is a female. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Has he been practicing?
He better be.
Yeah. You lose points because you didn't do it in your character's voice.
Yeah.
But that's what's so cool about games like Dungeons and Dragons and Fate is that you can take on a persona in a way that a video game based on D&D could never do. Because you can create a character in Baldur's Gate, but it's never going to be 100% your creation because you're still using a template. You can only look a certain way.
Yes.
But in this, like, you don't even have to be an artist. You can design your character in your mind and make other people see that character in their mind the way that you see it to the most minute detail. And that's not something you can do in a video game.
Right.
Which is what always appealed to me in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, same with started with the Choose Your Own Adventure books where I want to be able to choose this door. I want to make this option, a possibility. And in video games and things of that nature, like you only have a limited number of choices.
Yeah, even if it's an open world game, there is still a linear direction and path that you will need to follow eventually.
Yeah, I mean, game creators can't plan for every eventuality.
And a DM or GM can try to. And there is that sense of when you're a DM or a GM, getting them on track without pushing them to do something. Because I think the most fun campaigns are ones where the players just completely went against the grain and it forced the DM to create something entirely different. And then I think that makes the DM get into it even more because, like, all right, I guess we're gonna just have to do this. It's frustrating at first because you may have done a lot of prep, but those other things you can always come back to.
Yeah,
you can always power them up a little bit because they'll be stronger when they get there.
Right.
So it's kind of a fun thing. I do with Dungeons and Dragons. I think and going into Fate, I am gonna miss some of the combat stuff because I do like combat.
Yeah, and 5th edition, is really streamlined.
So I have not tried 5th edition. I stopped after 4th edition because it kind of was a struggle. We almost finished an entire, Gerald as well, and almost an entire 4th edition campaign. We dude, it was hard to get through. There were sessions where Gerald and I would look at each other. I feel like we may not have ever spoken about it. We would look at each other from across the table. Everybody else is totally into it. We had like a freaking 6. Was it like 6 of us? A 6-person party?
It was a lot.
It was way too many people. So much combat. And I feel like Gerald and I would catch eyes. We would just be like, I just want to go.
Yeah, just.
Because it was so not roleplay focused. And
gosh.
4th edition is so focused on these power cards. And it's like they wanted to turn it into a card game or something. Because you could even print out your little power cards. Like, all right, I'm going to use Lightning Fury Sword.
Right.
Or whatever. Even for like wizards, it felt so lame. I would like prep my spell book. But I was doing the same thing the fighter did.
Yes.
My class didn't feel any different from the fighter. The fighter would have these cool swirling attack moves. And it'd be like, oh, it hits everyone within a 360-degree radius with any squares touching the fighter. Their swirling slash will hit. And then I would have a spell that's like a fireball that would emanate from my position. It'd be like, oh, it'll hit anyone within the squares that are touching you. Like, wait, so that's doing the exact same thing, just with a different name.
Right.
And that's where it became D&D 4th edition was a huge step back in role-playing, and it was a huge step forward to being a Warhammer 40K miniatures game.
Yeah.
And that was the downfall.
Yeah. So when 5th edition came out, I was very skeptical, really skeptical, and ended up getting my hands on a copy of the rule book and kind of started thumbing through it and was pleasantly surprised, actually. Yeah. It actually teased me almost. I was like, should I do a 5th edition campaign? Do I want to do this?
That's what I'm thinking. Like, if we get through Fate, because we're thinking like, what, 6 months? We might try it and see how things go.
Yeah.
Once we get into the thick of it. Because that's the thing that is probably the hardest for new Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop role-playing gamers that are getting into it for the first time. It is a different kind of commitment.
Right.
And you have to know that it's going to take a long time to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take a long time to finish a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually something I wanted to talk about. What was your longest campaign that you made it through in Dungeons and Dragons? Or it could be Fate, something else.
Right.
What was the longest string with the same party and
Right.
how far they made it?
See, okay, so
If you had to put it into time, not sessions, but how
no,
many?
no, it was years.
Years.
The part of the blessing and the curse of the way I GM'd was we would play for hours on the weekend, and you just can't prep for that. So you really have to improv a lot of it. The downside is the character arcs, the story arcs really don't exist. It just everything bleeds together. You know, it's just this never-ending story.
Falcor.
Right. So, you know, the characters, they're still out there floating around somewhere unresolved. Yeah.
Wow.
Which
Yeah.
sucks. My buddy and I still talk about going back and trying
Finishing
to.
it.
Yeah. There's some really big story threads that are left undone.
Yeah. Our 4th edition campaign that we did, we never fully finished it, I don't think. Did we? Did we finish it? Now I'm thinking we didn't. I think it just kind of stopped at one point.
Yeah.
I don't think we fully finished it. There were certainly no role-playing arcs
Right.
that happened.
Right.
And we were not the GMs
Mm-mm.
in that situation, or DMs, as I like to say, direct messages. When the campaign I played, probably it was the third campaign that I DM'd was the most successful. It was 4th edition. The combat was a little more streamlined than when the version we ended up playing together. And did we do 2 different campaigns or just the one? I think we did 2, and we started over. You remember that? Doesn't that sound
Vaguely.
familiar?
Yeah.
I think that's what ended up happening. But we did finish that campaign, and it was years. And I believe this campaign, we did it, we started it, and we did finish it. We finished the story. We went through so many modules. I would basically take modules and I would string them together into a greater story that would fit what I was doing. This is the campaign that I based on Suikoden, and which none of them had played. So it was sort of fun. It was still unique because the modules had nothing to do with Suikoden.
Right.
But the overarching story was kind of based in the world of Suikoden. And this group of rebels going against this evil empire sort of situation, then building up their own headquarters and army to eventually go out and fight against this empire, but in a D&D setting. And it probably went for more than maybe 3 years or more, because there were some breaks. And it's actually kind of crazy how it went. We had, I think it was like a 5-person party. I think I had a silent protagonist character that was just kind of there as like a buffer. And then as we finalized our group, I was like, man, I don't even need this guy anymore, because we had like 6 people.
Right.
And my good friend, Steve, was in this. We always played D&D together. After that first campaign that I played with my Scoutmaster, when I revisited D&D in high school, he and I were the ones that sort of started it and campaigned it to our other friends to start it. And we did this campaign in the beginning of college. We started, like right after high school, we started this campaign. And it ran for years. And it was the same group. Freeman was in this group as well.
Okay.
Who you know. And we went through module after module after module. And we were so dedicated. It was every Sunday night. We would get dinner. We would meet. We would have we'd have the big tables out. I would take foam core, the giant foam core sheets, and I made grid lines on them with Sharpie, and then I laminated them. and then I would use dry erase markers to draw in the map elements. So we had all the maps, the dungeons, everything was very visual, because with 4th edition, it's kind of necessary.
Right.
We all were required to paint our miniatures. We had to tell our story and everything. Freeman was always really good about story. He was really into backstory. And Steve, we got about a year and a half in, and he got sick.
Mm-hmm.
And he had leukemia. And it was a huge thing. It was horrible, because we had never experienced someone that close to us get cancer and get sick like that. And it was rough. I remember we were all hanging out at Zach's place, and we got the call that he was sick. We're like, oh my gosh. And like, not in like some weird way, we're like, the campaign. Because it was so ingrained in our world that like every Sunday we meet. Steve was there. Steve never missed a session. He was at every single. I would pick his butt up if he's like, I can't. I'm out of gas. So I'd come get him. You know, we'd go to Wendy's and we'd come and be eating like junior bacon cheeseburgers and like drawing the maps up. He would help me draw the maps.
That's a good night there, dude.
Yeah. And he got sick, and it was like, wow, this is. Because it was just part of our routine. We just did it every Sunday. And it's, I mean, not to get so sad, but I mean, it was major. And they had to rush him. It was a huge deal. They had to go right to Philly, University of Pennsylvania Hospital, because it was serious. They didn't know it was late that they found it.
Wow.
He'd just been sick for weeks and weeks. I remember it's not funny, but it's a funny story. He would love me to tell it. But I remember him and Jerome, who you know as well. Jerome played with us. Like, he was an in and out. He would occasionally show up, but he wasn't always there. And he played a female character. He always played female characters because he's a pervert. No, I'm just kidding. No, love you, Jerome. But Jerome and Steve told me the story beforehand. When he was starting to feel sick all the time. He's like, I don't want to be weird, but I haven't pooped in like a week. I can't poop. And we're like, what? He's like, Jerome, can you pick me up? I was like, why do I need to pick you up? And he's like, I gotta get some laxatives or something. Didn't tell anybody. He's just like, I just must be stopped up. So he went and they got laxatives or whatever. He's like really awkward about it. He's like, no, still can't poop. And it was like a long time after that they kind of found out through a blood test what had happened. It was out because he was just getting really sick. And I saw him like a week before, and he looked really sick. And then I got the call. His mom called me. We were all hanging out. We were playing Smash Brothers. We're all playing Smash Brothers at Zach's place. And I was like, that was Steve's mom. He has leukemia. And it was crazy. And they're like, we're on the road. I have to go. I just want to let you know, Dave. Click. I was like, whoa. And this is how crazy our group is. Skype was still in its early phases. He was bedridden. He was in the freaking hospital. It was hard. And he was all the way in Pennsylvania. He was like, I want to play. He left his miniatures with me. He would he had his dice at the hospital. How awesome is this?
That is badass.
We set up my webcam. I would have my webcam as an overhead view of the map. And then we would connect him to Skype. And he would watch and listen, and we would play the game with him. He'd be like, all right, move me up 2 and over 1. All right, I'm going to use flurrying slash or whatever. Because he was a dragonborn fighter. He was huge. And we did that for probably 7 months, 7 or 8 months. And he would Skype in almost every session. Because Steve was such a dedicated guy. He was such a great guy. So dedicated. And, it's unfortunate. You would have gotten along with him. You would have loved Steven. He was such a cool guy. Big in RPGs. Loved tabletop role-playing games. Loved the storytelling, role-playing aspects of tabletop role-playing games. And he went into remission, and he came back in person. And we almost finished the campaign. He was in remission for a year, and it came back. And it was too much. It got him. And I saw him maybe a week before he passed away. And we did in D&D, we did this big like dedication to his character that he had passed on to another plane. And I know that seems like super cheesy and lame, but
man, that's
because
awesome.
he was so into it. And it was crazy. And like all that, like that's something that would have never happened, we probably would not have stayed as connected while he was in Pennsylvania in the hospital if we didn't play D&D. Aside from me going up and visiting, because Skype was like, none of us were like calling each other on Skype.
Right.
And yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that we probably stayed more connected during that tough time because of Dungeons and Dragons.
You know, hospital stays are the worst, and they're so boring and grueling, you know, and it's just tests, and it's just the nurses, you know, it's like, it's, I mean, nurses are great, don't get me wrong, but it's
an environment that's tough to be in.
Yes.
And I think the nurses, they were like, oh, he's got his Dungeons and Dragons dice out.
Yeah,
they would just see him playing.
But I can imagine him looking forward to that.
Yeah.
For the whole week.
What an awesome like distraction.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I mean, otherwise you're just sitting there. You're going to the cafeteria. Maybe you're on your laptop.
Right. I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because it's not like internet was as good as it is now, where you could just like, you know, play online games all day or talk to people online.
I love me some online games, and I can play for hours, but I can't play all day.
Yeah, and in that situation, you might not want to.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So, because that was the thing, like with that, he could just lay back and just play. Just all he had to do was look. He'd just tell us what to do, and we could just control his stuff. It was major.
But that's just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think it definitely, if there's ever been a point where we needed one, I need a game break. All right, so game break today. Let's get intense.
Yeah.
Let's get intense, Gerald. So let's reel it back in.
All right.
Simple game break. I was nice enough to give you a little heads up on this one. So I want you to tell me, Dungeons and Dragons specific. Let's keep it specific to D&D. What is your perfect 4-person party and why? I'm talking classes. You can include the races if that matters to you.
It's funny. You gave me a heads up on this question.
And you're still
And I'm sticking with my knee-jerk answer. Which is...
I finally give you a heads up and you still jerk my knee.
Right. It's hard to go with anything other than your classic, your fighter, cleric, wizard, thief, combination. Like your halfling thief, your, elf mage,
Okay. Super boring party. Human fighter.
Human fighter.
Usually
it would actually be human cleric and dwarf fighter.
So you would do a dwarf fighter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that. My go-to is always the wizard. I like wizard classes. I like mage. I like the mage style, old school, the intelligent, crotchety, pointy hat wizard. I'm just into that classic, that look.
Yeah.
I'd probably say mage because of Final Fantasy.
Right.
Probably black mage. Offensive magic has always been my thing. I never liked playing healers, and I don't think healers that like to play healers really like to play healers, because being a support class, you never feel like you're in the fray. You're always in the background, like, all right, let me help everybody else look cool. That's sort of the healer. Sometimes it felt like that. Unless a paladin has some healing ability,
Yeah.
which helps a little bit. Fighter, healer, in a way. So my perfect party, class-wise, you got to have a wizard. You absolutely got to go wizard. I definitely like wizard over sorcerer and warlock and all that mess. Wizard, I would go cleric over paladin. You know why? Because paladins always seem like they're really into themselves.
Yeah.
All that lawful good requirement crap. We got to talk about alignments a little bit towards the end here. But paladins always seem like goody two-shoes to me.
Yes.
Like too much. Because my go-to alignment has always been chaotic good.
Yeah.
Chaotic good, because I know it's a little cliche, a little generic, but it's your greater good, and it's like, you know what, if it's gonna help us save the world, the rules are meant to be bent.
Yeah. Some laws are unjust.
There you go.
And
that's the problem with paladins. We're like, oh, we got to follow the law, even though it's killing millions of people.
I think paladins are almost more problematic at times.
Lawful good is a problematic alignment.
Yeah.
It's just as bad as chaotic evil.
Right.
I think so. Well, you know what? Chaotic evil is probably better, because at least they can they don't have a law to follow the same way. So you could be chaotic evil and still be a less annoying person than a paladin. So chaotic good, you were a chaotic good player.
Yeah, I was either neutral good or chaotic good.
Yeah, neutral good, I can see the appeal. Chaotic good just sounds fun.
Right,
doesn't
yeah.
it?
Yep.
I think as Minsk from Baldur's Gate was always chaotic good. And that's where I was like, oh yeah, I like that. He's a little off. He's a little off. I like it. Minsk the Ranger, what a great guy with his space hamster Boo. Minsk, oh, so great. We need more characters like that in video games.
Right.
Not enough of those. Not enough Minsks out there. I think he was in like the Neverwinter massively multiplayer game. I think he had like a cameo or something. I'm not sure because I did play Neverwinter Nights, the original editions of that. That was a really fun game to play for sure. So Wizard. See, I would always put in because Rangers have some of those roguish stealth skills. They're sort of an all around. I usually will take a Ranger over a fighter. So I would go Wizard, Ranger.
I always like the animal familiars, like
that too
companions.
Yeah, so you got that extra.
Yeah.
So yeah, Wizard, Ranger, and then I'll go Cleric. Gotta have a Cleric in there.
You need a healer.
And then the fourth one is always kind of a fun. I like the idea of a Bard because of the buffs in a non-healing way. Or I would go with, if you want to get hardcore, go with the Monk because monks are cheap. Because you don't have to buy them weapons.
It's true.
These are their weapons, so all the gold can go to the people who need to buy weapons. Because gold is always, if you're playing D&D right and you're playing a D&D-based game right, gold is scarce.
Yes.
You're not just running it. You can't just buy everything you want. You go into a town, you might be able to buy one thing for your entire party, maybe one item.
Right.
So that would be my go-to party. And I was always a big fan of, I always played half-elf or human. Human if I was feeling generic, but I like the half-elf. I like the half-classes.
Gave you just a little
Half
flavor.
races, yeah, a little extra flavor. I like the half races, but they were never as beneficial as just playing an elf wizard.
Right.
Just something about it. I was like, well, I don't want to be full elf. I like to mix it up. Mix it up a little bit. All right, so there's our game break. I feel better now. I'm not all depressed now. Back. So with the classes, do you have any? What might be one of your goofiest or maybe your funniest story that you remember? From a campaign or some weird situation that happens. Because there's always some goofball situation that happens in a campaign.
We were playing, my buddy and I, we were playing part of the campaign, and I was in a bad mood for some reason.
That will translate into the game.
Yeah. And I didn't have as much self-control back then as I do
now. Back then he was Jerry.
And something happened. I was just angry, and he had made like a bad decision, or you know what, he may have not even made a bad decision. I may have just like taken my bad mood out on him. I feel horrible, and I killed his character. Like I didn't do it on purpose, but I let a bad roll
go through. You didn't cheat for the players.
I didn't cheat, which
sometimes you gotta cheat for the players.
Sometimes you do, and I just let it go through, and I was like, he's dead. That's it. He's dead. And
you can get resurrected, but it is a major chore.
Yeah. And my buddy, he doesn't get pissed off very many times, but he loves his characters, he loves his stories, and he was pissed off.
Is this the best friend?
Yes.
I'm going to ask him about that Tuesday.
Yeah. You bring it up.
No, I won't.
There's another story that he's still he'll
immediately disconnect from the Discord.
Oh my
server.
gosh, he's still upset with me about. So we ended up rolling up another character. It was just going to be this sort of like throwaway character. He didn't even care. And then it turned out that new character was the character that we had the years-long campaign with.
Wow, isn't that funny how things work out?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's good. The only ones I can remember, I remember in that original group with the Scoutmaster that this kid, it was like a group, like I said, it was originally his son, myself, and two others. And this other kid wanted to join in because he heard us talking about it. I was like, this kid, this guy doesn't get... Like, I was kind of being a douchey D&D elitist about it. I was like, he's not a D&D player. He just sees us doing it, and he feels left out. Terrible. And our Scoutmaster, oddly enough, name was Jerry. He says, no, well, we'll let him try it out. We'll let him try out. Like doing tryouts, like auditions. He shows up that next week because we would talk about it because we would be at Scouts like on Wednesday or whatever. And we would talk about it, and he like other kids in the troop would overhear it. We had a small group, there was like 12 of us, and the group was half of us played D&D, and he was like, "Oh, I want to get in on that." And so he shows up that week after Jared was like, all right, here's what you need to do. Here's the disc, whatever, make your character. And we hadn't played that many sessions. This kid shows up. Half orc, bard. Half orc, bard. This is what he picks. No, it wasn't a half orc bard. He did a split class where you could do a dual class.
Oh, I know. Yep.
So where you know what? Let's not pick one class and master it. Let's pick two and be crappy at both, which is already a problem.
Did you ever play with a tri class?
Oh, God. And they're like, everybody's level 10 and they're level 2 because they have to split their experience up. And so he was a half orc barbarian bard. So totally opposite ends of the spectrum classes, and he was a half orc. Give him credit. He was trying to play unique, which is something a lot of people don't do, because I was like, you're dumb. Why would you play that character? Everybody said, and he played till the end of the campaign.
Wow.
And he sucked. But he played till the end.
Where do you even put your ability scores? How do you balance that
they were trash.
character?
They were terrible. But we did legit rolls. So which already, so all of us kind of started with more. I hate where it's the point buy. I hate point buy system. I want you to roll 3, take your highest. 3 rolls for each one, take your highest. I love that, because then it's like, oh, you're a real person.
Yeah.
You don't decide. You're not in the womb. You're like, all right, let me work on my charisma.
Right.
You just get what you get.
Uh-huh.
And if your interest is wizardry and you're strong, figure it out.
Right.
Get the right armor.
Right.
Get the right staff that gives you the bonuses to make you more able to do what you want to do. That's what I would say. But yeah, it was, and I know, he was like the first troll
That's hilarious.
He was the pre-internet troll of my life, because we were pretty young. And he freaking knew. He only chose that because he wanted to be a big old orc barbarian dancing and singing. The visual. That's why he did it. He was trolling us. He was orking us. He was totally half orking us.
That's hilarious.
Crazy. Another kind of fun story about that original group. It got to the point where I told you he was also the person that got me into swords.
Yes.
And collecting weapons and stuff. He was really into that. I remember when they were talking about Lord of the Rings, as it was going to be a movie or whatever, and he was like, "Oh, I want to get like the Gandalf sword or whatever." So this was. I mean, it's crazy to think how old Lord of the Rings, the first Lord of the Rings movie is.
Right.
So it must have been super early 2000s.
You know what? Yes, it was early 2000s, because I remember I went with my neighbor, and the theater was packed. We had to sit up to the front rows that was like level. And I remember looking up at the screen and getting vertigo because they had those like wide, those panoramic views, and you'd go down.
Mr. Motion Sick.
Right. And I was like, this.
No, I will agree. I can't sit. I have to sit sort of in the middle.
Yeah.
Middle left. It's my go-to. I don't understand people who sit all the way in the back. I don't want to watch a movie from the top of a building.
Yeah, no, I got to be kind of eye level.
Yeah, eye level, maybe a little to the left or a little to the right. Not, you don't want to be head on.
No,
I don't want to see it.
I like to be on the aisle.
Yeah. Well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Only on the aisle.
Well,
look at you.
In case you gotta get out, or if you want popcorn.
He's a dumper. No. I'll never understand people who can just get up and go get popcorn like halfway through the movie. I went to a movie like a month ago, sitting down or whatever. Oh, I'm gonna get there a half hour early, even if. Because nowadays, a lot of the newer theaters, you pre-purchase and you select your seat.
Yep.
I'll still get there a half hour early. Because it's just it's ingrained. No, you get there early, you get your right seat.
Right.
And this guy, God bless him. God bless him. The movie starts with a crazy action sequence. It was Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2. Crazy stuff happening in the beginning of Deadpool 2. This guy's like, man, I'm out of popcorn. He just gets up in the beginning of the movie and just goes. So everything else that happens is completely out of context. If you've seen Deadpool 2, the way it starts, if you miss the intro, the whole purpose of what's kind of going on with Deadpool is totally, he comes out, he's like, and of course, hey babe, what's you all mad about? I'm like, Dad, come on, man. Why did you go? That's the thing. If I have to poop and I'm at the 58 minutes
you just walk away.
I don't care. No, you watch it.
Okay, you watch it. So
No.
either you watch it or you walk away. You just cut it.
I
walk
will
away.
be pinch the loaf. No, I'll fill them drawers up before I will miss. I paid, especially when you're paying $13 for a movie minimum. It feels like the nice theater.
Right.
No, I'll hold it. I'm a master of holding it if I'm in a movie.
Man,
Gerald's like, nope.
I'd probably just leave. I'd be like, I'll come back a different day.
You drop it. Can I get a refund? I have to poop. I have to go take a poop.
I think you actually, if you do have to leave, I think you can get like a voucher.
Depending on how long.
Yeah, to come back, I think.
Unless it's like there's 2 minutes left in the movie. Like,
Right.
Oh, I gotta go. Can I get a refund on this?
Yeah, you probably
The
can't do
ultimate
that.
scam. But going back to that, man, off topic. We're very good at that.
Mm.
He started to get into the Renaissance Fair aspect
Gotcha.
of role play, where
More the LARPing?
yeah, almost like, but we weren't actually LARPing. I've
Gotcha.
never LARPed.
Me neither.
I'm not gonna say I wasn't interested in it at one point.
I
like,
was
kind of.
I was LARPing curious.
I love the way you too out there on the internet. I've always been very intrigued by it.
Mhm.
And then that movie Role Models came out where they totally made fun of LARPing and everything with Paul Rudd
Yeah.
and McLovin from, and I was like, oh man, no, I can never LARP because now people know what it is.
Right.
That was probably the one thing where I was like, no, I don't think I could own that. I don't think I could own LARPing. But I would totally, if a group was like, and you were in it, and they're like, hey guys, we're gonna LARP at the park. We're gonna start LARPing. Here's the rules. I'd be like, I'm totally in. I am totally in. Just because I want to see how it's done. I want
Right.
to see how it plays.
Right.
Getting the foam weapons and stuff.
Uh-huh.
This is sad. But the Scoutmaster and his son would start dressing up for sessions.
Wow.
Like they would wear like, and they had like bracers and stuff.
Wow.
They would have like their swords sheathed. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then to really ramp it up, I got this idea from him. So when I ran D&D, I would play battle music for the fights.
Yes.
And I would play like town music in the town, so it gave it this cool atmosphere.
Yeah,
I
man.
love doing that. And, you know,
Yeah.
having all these game soundtracks, I had so much music to pull from, and I love doing that. And where did that come from? My Scoutmaster, because he wasn't that cool though. He didn't have video game soundtracks.
Right.
He would bust out. He'd put the boombox on the table,
Yep.
and we would fight. And again, I'm not even in high school yet. Not even in high school yet. And he would play Blue Oyster Cult
What?
tracks during our fight scenes in Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition. Because a lot of them are about like knights and mystic, like yeah. So he would play Blue Oyster Cult during the fight scenes. It was ridiculous. And I'm like, who is this band? I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't even know Don't Fear the Reaper at this point.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, such a fun. I think that's when I fell in love with D. I was like, this is so ridiculous. I love it.
Right.
And I remember him being like, I got a leather guy if you want to like get some bracers or something. I
Who
was like,
says that? I got a leather
yeah, I got
guy.
a leather guy. He's
Right.
down off 13. That's where I got the bracers from. They got a nice string. I went with him once to pick up his like he got leather belt pouches or whatever. He's like, yeah, he's pretty cool, right? I think he did go to Ren fairs though, so it's not like complete like he just did it for D&D.
Right,
That
right.
might be too much, but if I had like disposable income or any income back then, I probably would have done it
And
too.
here's the thing too, like if you're going to Ren fairs, like it's you can only go so many times in the year,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And usually a lot of those, enthusiasts,
Nice.
Right.
Good save. Good save.
it's high quality, material.
It's not some cheap Chinese eBay costume you
no,
ordered.
it is legit.
yeah.
It is nice.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was a literal leather worker.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I don't want to wear that one time a year. I want to wear that every weekend.
And it was so awkward though, because I knew, even I wasn't even in high school yet. I was young, but even then I knew that the owner of that shop was like, this guy's a whack job. Because people went, you know what that guy specialized in? Cowboy boot repair, saddles, saddles and reins, and like high quality like workman's belts that he would make out of leather.
Mm-hmm.
And then this guy's coming in with like a blueprint, and he'd be like, oh, here's the design I want. I want to, these sort of like, he's like, well, what is this? They're gonna be other like bracers. He'd be like, all right, well, you're paying.
Right. Right.
So, and then he got a lot of stuff. He got the belt pouches, he got these bracers and stuff, and then he got the guy to do sort of, what do you call, emblems by using branding tools to burn it into the leather and stuff. So he had these cool elven designs, because I think he played an elf. Yeah, an elf ranger. I think was his class. But isn't that crazy? He was into it, but again, he was so into it that carried on. And
it's funny how that can almost be contagious,
dude. I bought the sword. He bought the first sword. He's like, "You want one? I can get you one for $20." I was like, "I have $20. My allowance is coming in."
Right.
And they're like, "What'd you spend your allowance on?" No, Mr. Jerry had a sword I could buy. My dad's probably like, "Oh, all right, well, whatever." Do you imagine
That's funny.
coming home, you're 10 or 11 with a sword from your scoutmaster?
Right, but here's the thing. I mean, God bless our parents. They didn't understand it. They didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, my parents could have been like, "No, I'm shutting it down."
Right?
You're going to go over to Mr. Jerry's house and play Dungeons and Dragons on a weekend?
Yep.
Scouts isn't the weekend.
Right. Yep. I could have gotten shut down too.
But they were like, no, we trust you.
Mm-hmm.
We trust you. Coming home with a sword. I think if I had kids and my kid was like, "Yeah, my scoutmaster, I bought a sword off of him." Not a typical scenario for anybody.
No.
But yeah, it made it so much more real though when you have a freaking sword.
Right?
And I played a wizard, so I didn't have a sword. Should have been a half orc barbarian wizard.
Right.
The battle axe wizard. The ultimate fighter mage.
Right.
Oh jeez. So we are running low on time, but I do want to talk a little bit about how I feel you have strayed from traditional Dungeons and Dragons, and I feel like you're starting to prefer these more indie, kickstarted, non-D&D rule systems.
Yeah.
When did that start? When did you get, because that's the thing, I've never played a tabletop RPG outside of Dungeons and Dragons. It's been my home, and I don't like you're ripping me away from my love.
You're right.
My sword scoutmaster.
Right.
My beginnings. So what was the first system that got you out of D&D? Or not that you're out of it, but you haven't played it in a while.
No, I haven't. I think probably GURPS.
GURPS. That's one that I know a lot of people. I was very familiar with GURPS. Almost joined a GURPS campaign, and then it quickly turned into D&D.
Yeah. It's for those out there who maybe don't know what GURPS is. It stands for General Universal Role Playing System. So it's a role-playing
D20 system.
Yeah, that can it can be a sci-fi adventure, it can be a fantasy adventure, it can be a modern day adventure, it can be a 1920s prohibition adventure.
Whoa, that sounds riveting. Just keep going.
And I
can't wait to play Fate now.
Right. So I just gotten, I think, bored of the genre. I'd done fantasy for years and years and years.
It is the same thing over and over again.
I just wanted something different. So that's, I thought, what else is out there besides D&D in terms of a rule system, so we don't have to play fantasy all the time. And that's when I went to GURPS. And GURPS was very comfortable. It had a lot of the stats, it had a lot of the
D20
skills.
system kind of can pull over to it. It's a good transitioning.
Yeah, so it felt familiar. Completely different system.
Yeah.
So, it did take a little bit to get up to speed. But flipping through the rule book, I was like, you know what? I think this could work.
And it does force you to play differently.
Yes.
And this is what I like about a lot of the non-Dungeons and Dragons systems is most of them implement flaws. And that's something that in D&D, you can make a character that is not flawed. When everyone has strengths and weaknesses. D&D, I can't recall many characters of mine that had strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
They were very strong in their class. They could be weak. Like my wizard didn't have a high wisdom score because they didn't need it.
Right.
So wisdom didn't matter.
Right.
Strength didn't really matter.
Right.
So it forces you to think outside the box and make a more realistic person to role play as, which I love the flaws, and I love, like, in Fate, the sort of what do they call
The
it?
trouble.
The trouble.
Yeah.
My troubles, my little troubles. I like that, and I'm excited to sort of see how that goes. There was really only one non-D&D system that I was ever interested to try, and there's no way in my crew that I could have pulled off trying it. There was an official Ghostbusters
Wow.
tabletop role-playing game
Wow.
where you would basically, your party was a franchise. Basically, it was what the new movie should have been. No, it was Ghostbusters was huge. The original Ghostbusters are known as the sort of originators of
Right.
ghostbusting.
I like that idea. That's a franchise.
Yep.
Because it's not just ghosts aren't just around in New York.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really good idea,
And
actually.
they still exist. That original franchise exists.
Right.
You were a ghost busting franchise, and you would have skills, and there were things like charisma. So they would use the Ghostbusters as templates for character creation. So
Yeah,
you could be
you can
like,
see how it's a class.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Egon's more of the scientist class.
Right.
He's very much on the intelligence side. Peter Venkman is a charismatic class, very good at speaking to people, very good at schmoozing, maybe a little bit con manish. You know, Ray's sort of the heart of the Ghostbusters. He's sort of like almost like a cleric, like he keeps people going. He's like a support class, you know.
Right.
Winston's sort of the everyman, you know. He's sort of a jack of all trades type. He's a little bardish. So that's what I always wanted to try it, but you know, and I'm sure that the books at this point, it's probably so obscure, it's public domain at this point.
Right.
You can easily find scanned PDFs of all the stuff you would need to play it. And you would basically make a little franchise ID card, and that's your character sheet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you would go out and you would bust ghosts, and it had its own system. And yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That is.
Yeah, look it up. It's very interesting to read about. I read a lot of the books. I printed them out, and I would just read through. I don't have the old scans that I printed. I mean, that was years and years ago. But I was like, no, none of my friends are that into Ghostbusters.
I'm really surprised that yeah, you never gave it a go.
Yeah, I mean, it just D&D made more sense.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the grander community.
Sure.
I would have been the only one super hyped about it, and I would have to be the one that ran it.
Right.
So I would have been able to actually play a Ghostbuster. So have you personally played 5th edition? Just to get back on D&D.
I haven't played it. I've read the rules. I like the rules a lot. You know,
So maybe if we finish Fate, we'll try it.
Yeah, I could see that.
That could be fun.
I could see that.
So last thing I want to talk about before we get to the Q&A is Fate. We are going to be playing Fate via Discord. Is this your first time doing a tabletop RPG over the internet?
Yes.
What do you like about that? Do you like the idea of it? Are you nervous about that? How are we going to run that?
All of my games, not all of them, because GURPS, we did use some miniatures with GURPS. The vast majority of my experience has been primarily a narrative kind of RPG.
Which will be perfect for Discord.
Right, exactly. So I'm comfortable with that. What I'm uncomfortable with is I've made some cheat sheets with the rules, and I've got copies of all your characters and things like that on my iPad and also on my phone, but I'm using Discord, so it's going to be juggling programs and things. So I think we have to print some of that stuff out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most concerned about. I'm not concerned about going over the internet and having it be the audio, because
we get that figured out. What about dice rolling? How are we going to handle that?
At this point, I think it's just going to be trust.
No, because I don't have fake dice. Whoops.
Yeah, I'll have to. Do you want?
Well, here's the thing I was going to ask. I wonder, there probably is an app.
Yeah.
Where I can just roll the dice online.
Right. Yeah, you can do that. I can give you some physical dice. I love physical dice.
Yeah, I certainly prefer it.
Yeah.
That'll be that's the big hurdle in my mind. Like just seeing dice on the table, that I'm gonna miss. This is my first time doing it this way, aside from Skyping in my buddy back in the day, but that was totally different.
Yeah.
So do you think I seem to notice that a lot of the people, like I went to Too Many Games convention recently, and I was talking to a couple of people about D&D. And one of my good friends, Duke, who I've mentioned on the show before, he is like involved in multiple ongoing Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, 5th edition, and they're all done through Discord, and it's just mind blowing to me. This will also be my first that's strictly via the internet. Do you see that as like the future of how tabletop role playing is going to happen?
It's. I think it'll be a component. You know, I mean, online friendships and things have, you know, just become so mainstream now.
Yeah.
And also, as kids grow up and move away from their friends or their college buddies or whatever, and you're Skyping in, or you're staying connected. So it'll definitely be a component, but you're always also going to have those flesh and blood kind of groups where you get together, whether that's how you start or you meet new people and you're gonna get around a table. There's this shirt I've seen where it's got a table and chairs, and it says my first console was a table and chairs.
Right. Right. Yeah, and see, that's the good thing is, for you at least, you have played tabletop role-playing games with the other guys in our group.
Yes, yeah.
And I have played normal board games with all the guys in the group. So we're all familiar with each other, which is nice.
Yeah. And we all trust each other, so in terms of like roles and things like that, we're all...
There's no point in cheating.
No. And we're all of the like mind where, like failure adds drama and conflict.
Yeah, failure in a tabletop role-playing game is not you losing.
Exactly. Whereas I feel like if you're kind of a min-maxer, or you're just about the combat, you are a little bit more prone to cheat, because that's what's at stake, and that's where you get your satisfaction.
Yeah.
Whereas if something bad happens with the story, it's just more drama, and it's more like, oh crap, what are we gonna do, kind of thing.
Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
What movie do you go and see where everything works out every time?
Exactly.
I'll tell you, it's a movie that doesn't make any money. Whew, that was fun, man.
Yeah, man.
That was good. So let's look at the Q&A. Got some questions.
Okay.
And look at that. We've got a question about Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh.
How relevant. Oh, Lord, this name. This is going to... I'm going to really zoom in on this one. Stuslav Chandelor 609. Stuslav
That might
Chandelor 609. Is that the name of your character?
That might be an NPC in the future.
That's an NPC. Oh, please. I will screenshot this name and send it to you.
Yeah, do it.
You run into the local barkeep, Stuslav Chandelor. 609. Well, put the numbers on there, too.
Oh, absolutely.
He said, you talked about D&D before, and I was wondering, I think we answered this question, if you ever had one of those players who doesn't play seriously and doesn't even try to, and gets annoyed by the pace of a campaign.
Yes.
So my non-trier was the half-orc barbarian bard who ultimately got into it and was fine.
You're right.
I misjudged him. But do you have any other stories?
I do. Mine was, this only lasted one session.
Okay.
Character creation, and the guy said, the kid, because we were kids.
He's just a kid.
He's like, I just want to wear boots. Nothing else. I'm just wearing boots.
Ah, another troll.
Yeah.
Just being dumb.
Yeah.
Just to be dumb.
I hated that so
I just
much.
want to wear boots. D&D's out.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, and that's like, you're making your character, and it's like, okay, so let's see your armor class. What kind of armor? He's like, I don't want armor. I just want a pair of boots. And that's it. Nothing. I'm like, so you're just
trying to be funny?
No, because that's how he played it. So he's like, so you're walking in town, and he's like, I'm buck naked except for my boots. And I'm like, if you're not going to take this seriously,
And he kept going? He kept playing?
He tried to, but it lasted like a session. The session was like a half hour because he clearly wasn't taking it seriously. And I was like, I can't.
So he never played another session?
Yeah, no.
That was just a single. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one. All right, next question from Sly Beast.
Sly Beast.
From Sly Your Shirt. For the Q&A, what are your professions? Gerald, what do you do?
In real life?
Yes. Yeah, none of these other ones have to do with D&D.
I am an environmental scientist.
Environmental scientist, Mr. Smart. I'm a teacher. I make no money. That's my profession. I teach for a living. The secret's out. Now you know what Game Dave does. Joel Sunstrom. Almost said Sunstorm. Another very D&D sounding name. Joel Sunstrom. Game Dave, what's your favorite game console? PlayStation. The original PlayStation is by far my favorite, I have to say. Only because I played the most hours of games on the PS1. I remember getting excited for the weekend, not because I was off school, but or to sleep in, like most kids. It was because I could get up at 5 a.m. to play RPGs on PlayStation. And I would play all day, go to sleep early to get up early to play more. I mean, I would beat certain, RPGs in a weekend.
Wow.
Because I would just all day, all night, just obsessed.
Wow.
With PlayStation 1 RPGs. It's almost like I should do more videos on them.
Right. What was that? Was it WoW that you played where you like a whole day passed and you weren't aware of it?
World of Warcraft, yeah. Stupid. It was actually Steve and Jerome.
Right.
Those idiots. They were like, come on, man. Play World of Warcraft. You'll love it, man. You love RPGs. It's great. You can play with us. And they're like way higher level than me. So they were like babysitting me. That's the problem. Like your friends, if they've already started and you didn't start with them in an MMO, it's so hard to catch up. It's such a slow game to progress in. But I did like it. It was love-hate because I started like lunchtime. I was like, I ate some lunch. I was like, all right, turn WoW on. Let me log in. Okay. And then I was like, man, I am hungry. And it was 6 a.m. the next day. And I'm like, what the hell? Excuse my mouth.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, I was like, I can't do this every day. And I just went to sleep that morning. And I was like, guys, I gotta go to bed.
I love that story.
It was
a great story.
Horrible, dude. I don't know the exact times, but that's exactly what it was. It was awful. So what's your favorite game console?
You know what? I have to say the Sega Genesis. Yeah. Because that was the first console that I just fell in love with.
People are going to love you for that. A lot of Sega fans out there. That's awesome. What was your favorite game on the Genesis?
Altered Beast.
Altered Beast?
Yeah.
OG.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I remember playing that in the arcade, and then that was my favorite game in the arcade. That and Golden Axe.
And bringing them home.
And then bringing them home, and I was like, oh my gosh. I can't play these at home. Jeez.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Not what I expected, but I like it. Last question from Source Drop. Davey, my Davey, what mics do you use? And do you use a different one for episodes? You sound podcasty here, but not in reviews. Drops the mic. He wrote that in there. So for Digitally Distracted, because I wanted it to have that a podcasty sound.
The podcast.
Yes. So you'll be the audio version. You'll enjoy that, I'm sure. These are Blue Spark microphones. Blue Spark XLR condenser microphones. These are discontinued, this version. They're now called the Blue Spark XL. But I just like the look of these, and the sound of these is slightly different than the XLs. So I went out of my way. I already had one. I went out of my way to get another one from a discontinued old new stock seller, because I didn't want to give Gerald an old used nasty mic.
I appreciate that.
I'm very nice like that.
A little OCD.
Yeah, a little bit. For the main show, I actually use one of the Zoom portable audio recorders just because it's a lot easier to sync up. But who knows? Maybe one day I'll try one of these and make it sound not so podcasty. But then everybody's like, why does it sound different? It'll sound like significantly better, but the fact that it sounds different, people will complain. That's just how it works. Nobody likes change, Gerald.
Nope.
Now, if you want to ask a fun question for the next episode, you can do so in the comments of this video. Or you can send in topics for future shows.
That'd be fun.
If we run out, we might need some. It's true. You can also find me on Twitter. You can @ me on Twitter, or you can use the hashtag Digitally Distracted, and I'll be able to find your questions, comments, or topics for the show. And of course, you can join the Discord server. And if you want hardcore, you want the behind the scenes, all the secrets of the Game Dave channel, you can always support on Patreon. I'm Game Dave.
I'm Gerald.
Thanks for getting digitally distracted with us.